What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you a video about 5 archetypes in Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous that I personally would not play. An important thing to note about a few of these is that several of them are actually not bad per se, they're just not useful in this particular adventure path for various reasons. So this isn't exactly an estimation of some of their power, but some of them, because of the nature of this adventure path, which primarily sees us fighting the demons of the abyss, makes certain archetypes pretty useless. But to kick off this list, we have the Imitator, which is a Slayer archetype that requires you to be a human. Now, the Imitator sees you sacrifice the class's Study Target feature, as well as 3 of your sneak attack dice. To replace this, we pick up Imitation, which allows us to take on a fighter, barbarian, rogue, or monk stance for 1 minute a number of times per day equal to your intelligence modifier plus half your Slayer level. Now, overall, these stances aren't that bad, and in some ways you can see why they chose to replace things like Studied Target with them. The problem here is less the effectiveness of the archetype and simply the fact that changing those stances on top of sacrificing key class features is that it kind of forces you to micromanage your play, as in order to use this effectively, you need to be switching stances as appropriate. Whereas with the regular Slayer class features, we can just hit with Studied Target and do our sneak attack damage. We are actively losing damage and ease of use for more niche stances that we can change out. And because of this, it's an archetype that requires a lot of knowledge about what to use when, and for the most part isn't something I would recommend people play. Next up, we have the Master of All Rogue. This requires you to be a half-elf. Now, the reason you wouldn't want to use this is because you are sacrificing 3 sneak attack dice to pick up 3 uses of skill focus at level 3, 9, and 15. Now, this is bad because basically what you're doing is sacrificing damage to pick up skill focus. Skill focus gives you extra bonuses on your skills. Problem with this is that the way skills work in this game, you can basically always just reload. So as long as you have someone to cover a particular skill, there's really no reason to play a class that would sacrifice damage for something that literally reloading a save could fix. And while Master of All has a lot of flavor, you're essentially trading dice for something that you don't need in any way. Because even on Last Aslanti, you can actually still just reload stuff. Now, third, we have the Stormwalker Ranger. Now, the problem with this archetype is simply that you are trading way too much for way too little. So first of all, let's talk about what a Stormwalker loses. They sort of lose their combat style options. Rangers pick a combat style, whereas Stormwalkers have to take archery, which isn't that bad. However, you also lose your Hunter's Bond, which means you can either get an animal companion or take the Companion Bond, which gives your party a buff. You also lose Quarry and Improved Quarry. Now, what are we picking up in exchange for this? At 4th level, you pick up Wind Treader, which allows you to give your weapon the Shock special ability, which is okay if you give yourself Ascendant Element, because otherwise demons are immune to electricity in most cases. But you could pick up Ascendant Element Lightning to use this. But that's followed up by Flash Step, which lets you move across the battlefield as a bolt of lightning. So as a full round action, you can transform into lightning, move anywhere within 50 feet without provoking attacks of opportunity, and perform a ranged attack at the end of this movement. And then at 16, they pick up One with the Storm, which grants them immunity to electricity. And then lastly, you get Flash Shot at 19, which makes you able to use 2 ranged attacks at the end of your Flash Step. Now, those abilities by themselves really aren't that bad. The problem is that you're trading your Companion Bond. If you were just losing, like, say, Quarry or Improved Quarry, and you could still take your Hunter's Bond, I think this would be pretty good. But losing your Hunter's Bond for what is basically just movement abilities and Wind Treader is easily replaced by just a weapon that actually has the abilities that this class feature gives you makes Stormwalker, in my opinion, overall, while kind of cool in some regards, basically useless for us. Now, second on our list, we have the Spelldancer Magus. This is, again, just a classic one where we are trading way too much for way too little. So this is an Elf Magus archetype, meaning you have to be an elf, and we lose our arcane weapon enchantments altogether. We also lose our medium and heavy armor proficiencies later, but those are less important. But in exchange, we pick up Spell Dance, so we gain the ability to expend our regular arcane pool points to, instead of using them on our arcane weapon or anything like that, we use them to enter a Spell Dance, which grants you a +10 enhancement bonus to your movement rate, and a +2 dodge bonus to AC against attacks of opportunity specifically for 1 minute. And then as you level up, this increases, as well as allows you to cast Blur or Haste on yourself when you do it, and then also later lets you use Dimension Door as an ability while you do it, or even grant yourself freedom of movement. Now this gives you a ton of movement, yes, absolutely. The problem is that everything this gives you, you could basically just give yourself with the Haste spell. Now it does get a little better. You can get some extra AC while you're spell dancing if you're wearing light armor later on at 7 and 13, but in my opinion, trading off your arcane weapon enchantments for movement and things that you can honestly just get through the haste spell, as well as cast other spells that you can just get through your regular spells as a magus, makes me feel like Spell Dancer just simply is not worth it. And that brings us to our last archetype on this list. Is one of the, in my opinion, worst archetypes you could pick for this particular adventure path, and that is Defender of the True World. Now, Defender of the True World druids are by themselves not that weak per se. They actually get some cool abilities. However, all of these abilities are for fighting Fey creatures, which is actually very good in Kingmaker, where most of what you're fighting is Fey. Now take that same archetype and put it into a campaign against demons, where almost every single positive thing you get from this archetype is made useless by the fact that you are not fighting Fey. So while the archetype itself is cool, the fact that we're in an adventure path where the bonuses that you get simply do not come up, Defender of the True World is hands down one of the archetypes I simply would not recommend playing, period. There you go, guys. 5 archetypes in Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous I would not recommend playing. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope it helps you out. If you did, please remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz. But regardless of any of that, truly, just thank you so much for watching. May you wander in wisdom, and have an amazing day.